Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This video will be the second video on this channel and a bit different from the last one, but I'm sure you will enjoy it. So let me ask you a quick question. Have you ever misremembered something you were certain was correct? If yes, you're not alone, and it is nothing to worry about. This is a phenomenon called the Mandela effect, and today we will look at it in detail. The Mandela effect can be described as a general misremembering of certain details regarding past events that the brain took into memory. It happens because the human brain can't record everything it sees and hears like a camera and a microphone. So, when it spots cracks or forgotten details in a memory or something you learned before you know it, your brain relies on pre-existing mental templates called schemas and fills the forgotten parts of the details that fit there. This process is called confabulation, and sometimes what your brain ends up creating doesn't line up with the truth. The full extent of this phenomenon is reached when a large enough number of people collectively recall and share information that is false, making it even harder to realize it's the Mandela effect that is happening in the first place. In this chapter, we will go over 5 different examples of the Mandela effect. First, does the Monopoly man have a monocle or not? As you can see, this looks exactly like the original unchanged Monopoly man, but is not him. Because while this picture features the Monopoly man with a monocle, he has never worn one on the box, game board, or chance cards. And the explanation to this example is as follows. The eye accessory of the Monopoly man is a detail way too small and therefore probably the most open to being forgotten. And when it does get forgotten, based on his attire and what he represents, your brain finds it appropriate to fill the gap in memory by creating the monocle detail, because the more accessories in a character, especially a game character, equals the more representation. Second, did a Pikachu ever have a black tip on his tail? The answer is no. Pikachu is the most famous and recognizable Pokemon character globally. The misconception is so widespread that it's frequently discussed online. Because Pikachu's ears have black tips, and this is a character that was drawn by hand, it's much more likely to assume that the drawing is perfectly symmetrical. And that's why the human brain often maps the same black tip design to the other end of Pikachu's body, the tail. To back this up, many unofficial toys and shirts produced in the 90s incorrectly added a black-tipped tail to Pikachu, and my theory is for them filling the missing details job at least, the brain chooses the path with the least effort, which is the one with full consistency. Because the less chaotic a design is, the less there is to memorize about it. By full consistency, I mean the person or being in question having accessories on every category or having none. Think of it as all the values for each category being either 0 or 1. 1 meaning an accessory is present, and 0 meaning it's vacant, or in Pikachu's case, every end of a design being the same. Third, is Mona Lisa smiling? Leonardo da Vinci's famous painting, the Mona Lisa, has a subtle smile, and her expression is entirely intentional, utilizing an optical technique known as sfumato to make her smile differently depending on how the person looks at it. But many people remember her having a completely straight, expressionless face. This is due to old, historical paintings, the ones that are at least 2 to 3 centuries old, generally having expressionless faces in their figures. And because that is the majority, and a small curve in the figure's lips is a much smaller and unimportant aspect compared to other bigger details, the brain picks consistency once again, and often finds it appropriate for Mona Lisa to have a straight, expressionless face, when in fact she is smiling. Fourth, Nelson Mandela. The ultimate example to this video's topic is Nelson Mandela himself. Many people recall the South African leader dying in prison in the 1980s, but the reality is far more different, because he was released in 1990 and passed away in 2013. This specific case has more to do with misinformation caused by the Mandela effect, especially confabulation, being spread in huge groups rather than the human brain's inability to record and store everything perfectly. A probable explanation is, Highly followed media outlets could have shared wrong information and, as a result, caused a snowball like growing effect in which a large group of people shared and believed in the wrong story they told, not the truth. Fifth, a famous Star Wars quote. In the 1980 American epic space opera film, Star Wars Episode V, The Empire Strikes Back, there is a scene in which the worldwide famous character Darth Vader says,
"No, I am your father."
But some people recall the quote being, "Luke, I am your father," instead. Again, this probably is due to one of the thousands of words said in a movie that is 124 minutes long, being a very small detail and therefore so easy to forget. And when someone forgets a detail, as we mentioned in chapter 1, their brain fills the cracks in memory with details that, based on the context, fit there. For this example, context can be considered the fact that Darth Vader was replying to someone at that scene, thus making us think that him calling Luke Skywalker's name before speaking to him would be the most rational and expected move. And once again, as mentioned before, sometimes what confabulation ends up creating doesn't line up with the truth. And for this case, it surely didn't. The Mandela effect roots back to discussions dating back to the early 2000s and is named after the former South African president. The term was coined and first reported in 2009 by paranormal researcher Fiona Broom. She publicly shared her memory of former South African President Nelson Mandela passing away in prison in the 1980s, but discovered that lots of other people share the exact same incorrect memory. It has been thought to be a result of parallel universes or reality shifts by some people, but the currently accepted point of view on a reality shift or parallel universes are that they are impossible, defy our established scientific principles such as quantum mechanics or general relativity, and are therefore not real. Going back to this video's topic, it wasn't a huge mystery or something that human psychology couldn't explain. Up to this day, it still is a fascinating phenomenon.